Hello, welcome. So, if you're looking at that intro like blood, huh? There's no blood in this one. We're just doing magical girls and or anything else. So funny story. I may or may not have lost the cord to my mic. I have no idea what I did with it. I thought I knew where it was, and then I didn't. So, I had no way to plug my mic into my computer, so I had to look for an alternative, and the only other mic that I have is a Guitar Hero mic from like over a decade ago. I don't even know why I still have it, but I still have it, and it works, so here we are. So, welcome to celebrating Pride with magical girls and boys and anything in between and beyond. Happy Pride. I thought it'd be a fun idea to, do something exciting for Pride. It would also give me incentive to upload a video within a certain time frame. Because I'm notorious for putting off videos because something about uploading videos just makes me like nervous. But I knew that if I was gonna do something Pride themed, that I'd want to have it done before the month is over. So here we are, not necessarily turning Pride flags into characters, but coming up with designs to coming up with designs with the palettes of Pride flags. But here we are, 2 minutes later. This is the Bisexual flag, if you did not know. I thought this would be a good start because the colors are fairly aesthetically pleasing. They go pretty well together. I thought it would be a good start. But I was wrong. I actually had a little bit of trouble with this one because of how close together they are, like, on the spectrum. Like, I noticed that I actually had a little bit of trouble with trying to keep myself from reusing colors too close to another aspect of the design. I didn't want it to be like too repetitive with the colors, but because I'm only working with 3 colors, it's a little difficult. So I ended up blending colors together to make other in-between colors, and then I gave myself a lighter version and a darker version to work with because I needed something else. I gave her a little hoop sort of a thing, a ring, sort of to be like her weapon, I guess. I don't know, it just fit somehow. But this one was pretty fun to work with, like I said, because the colors do go pretty well together. I wasn't worried about them clashing in a weird way, but I did kind of struggle with it a little bit. I know that's going to be an issue with the next ones that I do in the future too, because a lot of flags don't have that many colors in them, and then it's either you only have 3 or 4, or you have like 8. There is no in between. So I gave myself something easy with the bi flag first. So here I am coloring it in Greyscale first. I'm not doing it based on what values I want to have. I'm basically just blocking stuff in so that I can change the color after the fact. Like, it just made changing colors easier. Filling it all in, because I pretty much do all my coloring by like clipping to other layers. The way I color is kind of weird. I've always been in a very inconvenient position where, like, my line art is always in a style that makes it so I can't just use the bucket tool. Like, I have to do some extra step first. I don't know how I've always managed to pull that off, but in all of the like 100 styles I've gone through, that has like always been an issue. Like, even back when I used the binary pen to color stuff in, I still had to worry about like the individual pixels between shit. Like, that was probably the easiest one out of all of them. But I managed with this. I ended up giving her wings. I didn't even really have much of a reason for it. I wasn't trying to make her a fairy, but the wings just seemed like a nice touch. Like, it seemed like it would fit, especially because her hair is short. A lot of the times, like with magical girl outfits, there'll be like a huge bow in there somewhere, so it kind of resembles a bow in a way. Here's me blending colors together to try to get in between colors. I was able to get a decent like range of colors despite the colors being so similar, like when you blend them together. I mean, you know, blending pink and blue, you're gonna get a purple, and there's already purple in the palette, so it was not convenient. But overall, I think it worked out pretty well. I ended up naming her Gemini, as a reference to, you know, the twins, and Gemini being about two, although bisexuality isn't always about two, quote-unquote, two genders. For me, how I tend to define it is usually two or more, as opposed to pansexuality, which is like all any. I thought it'd be a fun little reference, but yeah, I feel like it came out pretty okay. I do think that out of all of them, this is the one I struggled with the least, which is saying something, considering that I was talking about how much I had trouble with this one. None of them were easy. I found that I ran into problems with all of them, but ultimately I was able to work them out. So hopefully you like how they came out too, because I was pretty satisfied with it. So yeah, here is our. Oh yeah, I didn't record myself coloring the line art because I told myself I wasn't going to, and then I did, and so I recorded it for the next two. But yeah, here's Gemini, the complete drawing. So the next one is the MLM flag, or the gay flag for men. This one was a process. I, obviously being the gay flag for men, I wanted to make this one a boy. That's a little difficult. I noticed that with all of the ideas that I had in mind, and including the one that I ended up with for him, trying to translate magical girl outfits to something more masculine, I just unintentionally kept reinventing OG fashion. Like, I didn't mean to, but like, it just felt like having all the frills and ribbons and such, I ended up with something very OG-esque. That was my phone. I don't know if the mic picked that up. Hopefully it didn't. But, I did let myself go with the OG theme for this one because I thought it'd be a little fun to have him be, you know, a prince of some kind. I also, before I even started drawing, the first thing that I had in mind for this design, aside from it being OG themed, was I wanted him to have a cape. Because that's not something you see super often with magical girl stuff. At best, you see like long ribbons, or like ribbons that take up a lot of space. That is my phone again. Oh my god. All of a sudden, I want to be relevant. Ain't nobody texting me. But, I wanted him to have a cape, if not like a half cape sort of a thing. But I ended up giving him a full cape because what I had in mind was I wanted to use the darker colors of the flag to kind of block in his silhouette. So I wanted the cape to be the darker colors, and then I planned to use mostly greens for the outfit because I thought that would help with the contrast between him and his cape. It makes his silhouette stand out more. It worked pretty well. I was pretty happy with that. I nice. I definitely don't have a lot of points of reference with this. Like I boy magical things, magical boys. It's not like a super common concept, which you'd think it'd be more common because of the crazy amount of fan service you could probably do, but surprisingly it's not. And like the biggest like magical boy series, despite how many years have passed, is still being on. So like I didn't have a lot of points of reference, and I didn't even look at the Benon designs. I just kind of was like, yeah, I kind of remember what those look like, but I don't know if I want to go in that direction. The only other point of reference that I had, which if you know, then you know it's not really, is Dream Festival. Because they do transformations for their outfits, but like their outfits are just like normal performing outfits. Like they're not meant to be like magical. They just have transformation sequences for some reason, and it's never explained. You just have to accept it. But not a whole lot of points of reference, so I unintentionally just reinvented OG fashion. So I tried to come up with other ideas while I was working on this one because I didn't want him to be the only boy. I've got some ideas, so hopefully they'll work okay. But here I am blocking in colors again. He was tricky, just like Gemini was, because once again the colors are very aesthetically pleasing, which means the colors go together very well, which means that when you put them next to each other, they all kind of look the same. So trying to make sure that I had contrast while working with colors that were so close together, it was a little difficult. This was definitely easier than the bi-flag one, though. It, in a sense that I had more colors to work with, and one thing that I really benefited from was that the darkest color, which I'm coloring in now, is a purple. It's not actually a dark blue, so that was very helpful when it came to getting the colors to be different and not clash. I unintentionally ended up giving him like a galaxy sort of a thing going on. I just really wanted the cape to be sparkly, but the reoccurring thing in his design is supposed to be the diamonds and the ribbon. But I didn't give him a handheld weapon in this. It's kind of like not obvious at all, but I kind of wanted his weapon to be the chain that he has. So you see later that I make it white so it really stands out. Having white for this flag definitely really helped me. I feel like this one came out pretty solid. Despite me not having a lot to work with, because trying to translate magical girl outfits into something more masculine, like, it sounds easier than it actually is. Because in theory, it's like, well, just give them pants. It's not that different. But then, like, you get to the qualities that actually make magical girls what they are. So, like, the frills, the lace, and the ribbons. And then you realize, oh, I can't really do that very much with pants. Like, you can add them somewhere, but ultimately, you're possibly going to run into what I tend to refer to as boy idol pants syndrome, which is like the fact that, like, for some reason, boy idol series, like, they never give their characters like nice pants. Like, the pants are always super plain. Like, you'll have this really like detailed top with like different lace and like gems and stuff on it, and then you get to the pants and it's just like solid white. It's so sad. So I tried to avoid that, and that's why I put the diamonds on the knees, because I wanted to pull the white into the lower half of his design too. I unintentionally gave all three of them gloves. I don't know how I did that without noticing, but they all have gloves. Not all of them are going to have gloves, but these three just happen to have gloves. I ended up naming him Carta, as in the Latin word origin for the word card, to reference, playing cards for the diamonds that he has. So here's Carta, completely done. And lastly, we have the lesbian flag. This one was very similar to the last one in terms of the problems I had. This one was a little bit more tricky because the darkest color in the palette is still relatively close to the second darkest color. Like, the pink, being the darkest, and then the other pink in the design is also very close. It's just like a darker version of the other, essentially. So trying to maintain a good sense of contrast without reusing colors too much, it was a little tough. This entire design was just a bunch of challenges for me, essentially. So a problem that I run into a lot when I'm designing, or just drawing in general, characters that have like different body types, is that I'll draw the body fine, but then when I put clothes on them, you can't really tell that they're shaped any different. Like, it's not as obvious. Like, the first the first reference that I can even come up with is Luvis from Commissions of the Board. She's one of my lovely OCs. She is very pear-shaped, and like, her stomach goes over like her denim shorts, so like she wears it more at like her hips as opposed to wearing it up at her waist. Similarly to what I'm drawing now, where like her stomach goes over where that waistband is. And despite that, and wearing a crop top, you still kind of can't really tell that she has any bit of weight on her. Like, it's not incredibly obvious, especially because she doesn't have a lot going on chest-wise. She's very much like heavier at the waist than the hips and thighs. So, like, if I can get away with showing this picture, I will. But I did a drawing for like a Twitter challenge, and it was like the only drawing that I ever did where you could actually see her body type, and even then I was still like, you still didn't quite see everything because the top was loose. Like, it's weird because in real life, like, you don't have to wear something skin tight to be able to see someone's body shape, but for some reason I have a hard time illustrating that, because the only time I can ever get the body shape to be shown is when I draw something skin tight, and that's not something I do very often, apparently. So I decided to go outside of my box with that one, and I decided to give her a more fitted top. So that way, I could come up with a design that was, entirely made, like, around the idea that I wanted her stomach to be visible. Train of thought. So growing up, I was very into magical girl stuff. I loved Tokyo Mew Mew. I loved Shigokyara. I still do. I have a bunch of manga of it. But, as a kid, I always liked the frilly aspect of it, like the petticoats, and, like, just the fluffiness of magical girl outfits. There's something about that, like, poof that really spoke to me for some reason as a kid, And like I never really cared for like the more fitted outfits. Like I always preferred the ones that had fluff, like a princess dress. Like for some reason I just really liked that more. And because I don't really because that doesn't usually appeal to me, I decided to try to do that with this outfit. So she does have a more fitted top, but I still gave her the frills for the bottom half. It's not obvious, but the frills, like, she's wearing shorts. It's not easy to tell because of how I drew it. I tried to make it a little more obvious that she's wearing shorts and not a skirt, but it was a little hard to tell. But sorry, making adjustments. Like, for example, as mentioned previously, I loved Tokyo Mew Mew as a kid, and I remember when I first saw Mint's transformation, I was pretty excited about it because she's a ballerina, so I'm like, oh, that's like perfect for a magical girl dress. And then you get to the transformation, it shows you the silhouette of her like ballerina outfit, but it's just a reference because then she goes through the full transformation and her outfit is just this slim, really short dress. And I remember being so disappointed about it. And like I wasn't even a fan of Mint to begin with, so when her transformation like let me down that bad, I was so sad about it. So I wanted to try to have something that's more fitted, like the designs that I tend to not favor. Like I remember not being big on Zakuro's design either, because hers is pretty fitted because it's meant to look more mature because she's the older one. But I like the idea of having, you know, something fitted but still combining it with frills. So she has a little bit of both, which is fun. Her weapon is a staff of some kind. I unintentionally ended up with a circle theme with her. She has more like gemstones in her outfit than the others do. I can't remember if Carta has any, but there are a few in Gemini's, but I wanted to have more in hers because I ended up with this like repetitive circle thing with her. Just stuff being round in general. I also, you know, the fact that she wears glasses, I thought that was a fun touch. But it's more circles, so I mess around with that quite a bit. I gave her the like pendant on the choker, you know, the very iconic magical girl choker type thing. I gave her I don't know what you'd call those, like sleeve cuffs of some kinds, like the shoulder, off the shoulder cuff things. Those are pretty common in magical girls. Usually there's like another one that shows up as like the band on the thigh. I'm sure there's a name for that. I don't know what that is. There is a name for that. I don't know what it is. I can't remember. But I didn't do that with this one because I knew that you wouldn't be able to see it very well with how long I wanted her shorts to be. But I do plan to do that with one of the other ones because how could I not? That's just iconic magical girl stuff. I do like how much I was able to keep the frills in her design despite it still being fitted. I like that there are different textures of frills. It was a fun one to work on. It was a little tricky and it was a pain in the ass sometimes, but it wasn't too bad. So, you know, here's me trying to invent new colors by blending them together and getting some in-between colors. I ended up doing, I think, a darker version of this palette later for like one specific reason, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. You see me mess around with the colors in this one quite a bit because I could not settle on how I wanted the contrast to be, like where I wanted the contrast to go. Like I could not figure it out for the life of me at first. I was really like finding that the difference between the pink and the orange was really like intense. Like, it doesn't look like that when you see the colors together on the flag, but when I was coming up with like palette designs, I was like, oh, this is kind of difficult to get these colors to work together. So I struggled with that a little bit, but overall I think it ended up turning out okay. I feel like I had a little bit of trouble with everybody's hair, with all three of them, because I just could not settle on like how I wanted to go about it. I didn't want to do a gradient for all of them, but I unintentionally ended up with 2 gradients. I do like what I did with hers. I think this was where I started trying to like invent colors again. Carda's is a solid purple, but the gradients looks very nice, especially because, as you may know, this is the sunset flag, or what is referred to as the sunset flag. The reason it has that name is because the original lesbian flag, the lipstick flag, ended up being made by somebody who was problematic somehow. So the flag was kind of revamped and replaced. And so the old flag is referred to as the lipstick flag because it uses mostly pinks and reds. So that's how you tell the difference between the two, so you know which one to use. But I thought the gradient for her hair worked pretty well with that because of the idea of the sunset. You see that I draw this on her stomach later, but I ended up naming her Dawn to reference, the time of day change, because of the sunset flag, even though dawn is sunrise. But I was particular about that because I went on a little bit of a deep dive when I was naming her, because I was like, yeah, dawn works as a name, but why dawn and not dusk is too dark, so but sunset as a name does not work for what I'm doing. So I ended up kind of looking into, I'm like, why do sunsets and sunrises look different? Like, why aren't they the same? Why is it that sunset tends to be very vibrant in colors and then sunrise isn't? And I got a couple of different answers, but the one that I saw the most was that it has to do with the way the rays go through, scatter across the sky when there are pollutants in the air. During the day, there are people outside driving, using machinery, and so it makes the light scatter differently. And then at night, it kind of cools off. Those pollutants drop down in levels, and so by sunrise it looks different because the sky is clearer and it doesn't have as much in the air to go through. So that's the reason that I noticed come up the most. And so I liked the idea of naming her Dawn because the idea that dawn is the cleaner time of day, or the brighter time of day, where it's a fresh start to a new day. I don't know, I like to be corny with my names. But yeah, as you can see, I gave her a D tattoo on her stomach because I wanted her to have some sort of a design on her stomach since it's so visible. I'd say I like how this one came out. It was a little tricky, but it was fun to work with. I definitely benefited from there being white in this one, similarly to the last one. Something that I tried to make sure that I didn't do with these was I didn't want the flag to just be in the design somewhere. I didn't want it, even gradient-wise, I didn't want just the actual flag in the usual order to just be thrown in the design somewhere. I wanted it to be more spread out. Now, with Gemini, I kind of went against that because the gradient in the skirt part was originally just purple and blue, but it just did not look right, and so I ended up adding pink to the base. So hers ended up just kind of being the flag for the skirt, so she's a little bit of an exception. But with this design being so stripe heavy, I tried really hard to make it sure that it wasn't just the flag in there, and I feel like I did a pretty okay job. It unintentionally ended up being cheerleader-esque, a lot of my artistic choices end up being mistakes or accidents, as you've probably noticed. But yeah, here's hers finished. Yeah, these were pretty fun to do. It was a pretty fun challenge. I'm looking forward to doing the other ones. You may or may not know, but I don't usually do flat color pieces, so this is also a little bit different for me. I tend to do paintings, like fully rendered paintings, so this is a fun change of pace. Finally coughing after recording for so long. It was also kind of fun because, fun sarcastically, because coloring line art is incredibly tedious. When you're working with flat colors, because the mistakes are so much more obvious. But like, I love coloring line art with paintings because it's very loose and fluid and nice, but with flat colors it's not. I like how these look next to each other. I feel like these, you know, despite my limited palettes, I do feel like these designs actually work pretty well. You know, I know I've said a few times, but you know, I'm pretty happy with how these came out, and yeah, I'm excited to do the next ones because I've got more on my list, just to see how it goes. I don't usually do full body ref drawings either, so that was also something, you know, fun and different for me to do. But yeah, hoped you liked watching me scramble. Each of these drawings took somewhere between 1 to 3 hours to do, because the coloring was so tedious. And the fact that I inked it, sometimes I just go from like the base like circle sketch straight into the line art. Like, I just do the sketch and then clean up the sketch, but I did not do that for these, so that took me a little bit longer. And frills, as much as I love to draw them, do take some time. So, it took me a minute. But, yeah, I hope you like watching it sped up. And hopefully I'll see you for the next one, whenever that happens. So yeah, happy Pride Month. Take care, stay safe.